What's up, agents? Zer here, welcome back to the lab, and today we're going to be discussing the 1.13 update to Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Now, admittedly, this update has been out for quite some time. In fact, we did have a 1.13.1 update come out in order to fix some bugs, and as far as I'm aware, the Mojang team is actually working on further bug fix updates, which is pretty nice, all things considered. But this is something that I actually have been wanting to go ahead and discuss with you guys, because I think what we've been given in this update is actually pretty awesome. And the first thing, this one's like really minor compared to pretty much all the other stuff, is that yeah, I've got my Minecon cape now on my normal skin. I did actually discuss this before, but it was limited to the skin pack, so I could either be Steve or Alex, and I could wear this cape, but that was literally it. Now I can go ahead and apply it to my character, which is pretty nice, all things considered. I do believe in the original 1.13 update, you cannot apply it to custom skins, which I'm perfectly fine on that regard. I use a custom skin pack that I made for myself. You guys probably know that by now. But supposedly, and I have not actually tested this, but I'm just going to take Mojang's word for it. Supposedly, they fixed that in 1.13.1, so you should be able to apply the cape to custom skins, so do keep this in mind. If it doesn't work, then Mojang made a little bit of a mistake, so do not blame me in that regard. I'm just going off of what I've read. So let's go ahead and go on with the remainder of the stuff that we've got inside of this update. And this first one is the fox. And actually, before I go any further, I am going to leave out like pretty much the majority of the bug fixes and that kind of stuff. I'm going to be going over the major things that I think are important. And in the fox's regard, they have a lot of behaviors, and unfortunately I'm not going to have enough time to discuss all of them, but I will at the very least touch up on things that I feel are important. If you guys want to read more on the fox, then make sure to go online and search up. Actually, you know what, I will make sure I have linked down in the description a page where you can read more on the fox, which should hopefully help a lot of you guys out, and the changelog will be down in the description as well. But the fox, these have a ton of behaviors. They can actually go ahead and eat stuff. If they have food in their mouth, and they will actually end up eating it. They can, in fact, take status effects from certain things. For example, if they eat raw chicken, there is a chance they can get poison or nauseous. I can't quite remember what raw chicken could potentially give you. They are actually afraid of the player. You cannot tame them by any means, but you can breed them, and the baby that's produced will trust you. It's not tamed, but it will trust you, which is kind of interesting. And there's also a red variant, which you can obviously see, and there's a white variant, and the white variant actually has a little animation where it will jump up into the air, and it can, in fact, get its head stuck in the snow. And one final thing that I do want to go ahead and mention about this fox, at least for the sake of this video, is that they can actually jump over fences in order to attack chickens and rabbits. Those are the two mobs that I am aware that they will go ahead and attack. I know people more than likely will have chicken pens. I'm not 100% sure about rabbit pens, but if you happen to have one of those, then this should affect you as well. And I did some testing during the original 1.13 release. Did not test it during 1.13.1, but they can jump over one tall fences, which that's their normal behavior. But during my testing, apparently they cannot jump over too high fences, which is kind of odd. So obviously you're going to need to go ahead and do some sort of defense mechanism in order to be able to protect your chickens or potentially rabbits, because otherwise these guys may end up getting to them and you lose pretty much all that you have. They do technically spawn in taiga biomes, so do keep this in mind if you live in those sort of areas. But yeah, there's a lot more behaviors to these guys that I probably did not mention, but as I said, I'm not really going to focus on every single one. Next up, we have ourselves this guy right here, the brown mushroom. Now, these guys are obviously a different variation of the red mushroom that we've always ended up having. However, these guys actually do not spawn naturally. The only way to actually get these is to have a red mushroom get struck by lightning. And obviously, we have the channeling enchantment for tridents, and that's actually a fairly easy way to go ahead and get that if that's what you're trying to do. And the only real difference between the red mushroom and the brown mushroom, besides the color and the mushrooms that they're growing, is that they can actually produce suspicious stew alongside mushroom stew. And I will discuss suspicious stew in a little bit. But yeah, you can in fact get suspicious stew from these guys. And when I discuss the suspicious stew, I will tell you guys how you get from the actual brown mushrooms. But other than that, they have the exact same behavior as that of regular red mushrooms, so do keep that in mind. Next up, we have ourselves a brand new flower. This is the Wither Rose, and when you stand on this, you'll actually end up getting a Wither status effect, which is obviously not a good effect to have. These do not spawn naturally in the world. Instead, how you actually end up getting them is if a Wither boss ends up killing a mob. I did not do any research, but I know for a fact both hostile and passive mobs will actually end up getting their drops turned into the Wither Rose. But that's actually kind of nice. So you could, in theory, create a Wither Rose farm if you have the technical know-how. And you can also turn these into black dye, which is fairly useful. I imagine you may want black dye for certain things, but you may also want the Wither Rose for certain things as well, which is pretty interesting. I do think this is a rather unique way to do this. Something that I personally think that would be nice is that if we could put this inside of a brewing stand and end up getting a Wither potion effect. Although technically speaking, there is another way to get that, which we're going to go ahead and skip right over this for the moment and discuss that right now, which is the suspicious stew. I will make sure to get back to that in just a quick moment. And this is the crafting recipe. It's the exact same recipe as mushroom stew, except for the fact that you add a flower into the mix. This is obviously a Wither Rose, but you can use practically any flower inside of the game. I'm pretty sure that there are certain exceptions, and these will end up giving you a different status effect when eaten. The only issue is that you will not know what status effect you will get when you actually end up eating it, which could be a huge risk because there are certain effects that are actually useful, but some of them actually are pretty bad to have. You can also find these in chests, and supposedly certain villagers will actually trade for them, which that's kind of interesting. It's a shapeless recipe, and how you actually end up getting suspicious stew from the brown mushroom is you have to first feed them the flower that you actually want to go ahead and get the status effect for, and then you get the suspicious stew from them in the exact same manner that you would get mushroom stew from not only these guys, but also the red mushrooms that we've always ended up having. From what I'm reading, there are 9 different status effects. Certain status effects actually combine multiple different flowers. I'm actually looking at one particular one. Tulips, all the different tulips will produce a weakness effect, and it doesn't matter what color the tulips technically are, which is kind of nice. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail, but there are 9 different status effects, and I will at the very least list what these status effects are. You have fire resistance, blindness, saturation, jump boost, poison, regeneration, night vision, weakness, as well as wither, which wither is given by the Wither Rose, which is fairly straightforward. Let's go ahead and move back over here. We can now place item frames on the floor and ceiling, which this is something we've been wanting on Bedrock Edition for quite some time. Unfortunately, we still are not able to place them in the exact same space on different walls. Like maybe, for example, I wanted to place an item frame on this wall as well as this wall right here. Still not possible. You can only place it on one or the other, which is a bit annoying, but still definitely something to keep in mind. Next, let's go ahead and move on to some other changes that we have right here. There is more elsewhere in the lab that I want to go ahead and discuss, but I want to get over these first. We now have abandoned villages. There is a new celebration event that occurs whenever a pillager raid successfully loots a village, kills all the villagers, that kind of stuff. We have 5 new dead coal types. I am not 100% sure what exactly this is supposed to mean. Maybe I'm just not paying too close attention to the creative inventory. I'm not 100% sure. We also have some new in-game chat settings, which is pretty interesting. So if we go ahead and go in here, you're going to see this gear icon. If you're in survival, then you're obviously not going to have this slash, but you get the point. If we open this up, we can go ahead and see that we have a few different settings, which is pretty nice. We can mute every single piece of chat. We can turn on text to speech for chat. We also have 2 different font choices. Mojangles, which is the default font that Mojang or Minecraft technically has. We have this Noto Sans, which I'm not a huge fan of. I know people have complained about this, but it's there. We can actually change the size of the font if we have Noto Sans enabled. We can change the line spacing, and we can also change the chat color and the mentions color if we are mentioned in chat with the @tag. So you can change these to pretty much whatever colors are listed here, which is kind of nice. You could technically set to default if you really want to, but I'm not going to. We have the character creator, which I did actually discuss in a previous video already. There's been a lot more added since it was released. One complaint I do have is that we are limited to 5 different skin slots. I'm hoping at some point we will have a way to unlock additional, but if you guys want more information on the actual skin creator, I did already do a video in that regard, so you can go ahead and check that down in the description so you can look at it in better detail. We also have game credits, and these appear not only after you beat the Ender Dragon, but also you can check them if you actually go to your settings menu. More than likely you are not going to end up reading these, but we do have that option if you really want to go ahead and do that. And I'm pretty sure it's listed under, it's listed under profile, so it's right here. So you can go ahead and click on credits if you really want to. I'm not gonna bother for the time being. So we're gonna go to the testing room because we actually have something pretty interesting. We actually have some brand new note block sounds, which is pretty interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually gonna turn my volume up a bit so that you guys will hopefully be able to hear these a little bit better. But I'm just gonna go ahead and click them like a few times so that you guys will be able to get an idea of what these sounds are. We've had these sounds for a long time inside of Java Edition. They were just ported as of 1.13 into Bedrock Edition, which is pretty nice. So we're going to go down the list, and like I said, I'm going to click them just a few times so you guys can get an idea of what it sounds like. First off, glowstone will give a pling sound. Alright, so there we go. We have the hay bale, which gives a banjo sound. The emerald block gives a bit sound, which this is actually something I do kind of like. I like this one a lot. We also have a didgeridoo played by a pumpkin block, which I'm not familiar with what a didgeridoo is, but I'm hoping this is accurate. Maybe some of you guys down in the comments might potentially know for sure. We have Soul Sand, which produces a cowbell sound. We also have the iron block, which this gives off an iron xylophone, which I'm not familiar with what this is supposed to be, but this is what it sounds like. And then the bone block gives a normal xylophone sound effect. We have a guitar produced by wool, which that actually sounds pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Packed ice gives a chime sound. Clay blocks, and these are the regular clay blocks. By the way, I've not tested like hardened clay by any means, but we do have a flute sound from this. And then we also have gold blocks, which gives a bell sound. And that is all the new note block sounds that we have available to us. Let's go ahead and go down to the vehicle bay, and we're going to discuss a brand new block that we have available to us. This is the structure block, and we also have access to the structure void, and neither of these are available in the creative inventory. You have to get them via commands, so do keep this in mind. And one other thing to mention is that you are going to need experimental gameplay in order to be able to use these, at least as of right now. Let me go and turn my volume down a little bit. So this is a setting that you're going to have to end up turning on before you open up your world. I have it turned on right now, but because I'm in the world, I cannot toggle this. So as I just said, you're going to have to toggle this before you open up the world, and then you'll be able to have access to the features of the actual structure block itself. So here's what the structure block does. I can go ahead and place this down, and there's really nothing right here at the moment, but I can go ahead and go into here, and it'll show me everything within the space that is given. I can go ahead and change the size of this. I can go ahead and change where it is offset. I can also include entities as well, so maybe you have a mom or an armor stand or a minecart or something along those lines, then that will be included as well. Remove blocks will end up obviously removing blocks from the actual structure itself. You will not get blocks, and also will remove them as well. If I had entities in here, I can turn this off and will remove them. You can also save them to memory to disk. I have not found any difference whatsoever because I am on Android. Supposedly on Windows 10, this does make a difference, but I cannot confirm or deny. You can also toggle the show bounding box, which I'll turn that on and off. As you can tell, the lines are actually turned off right now. I can go ahead and turn them back on and they will reappear. There seems to be a bug as of right now. Apparently, when you close and reopen the world, if you have the bounding box set to off, it will not remember that. You're going to have to toggle it back again twice in order to fix that, which is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. You also are going to have this load functionality, which this will load in a structure of your choice, and you can choose the offset, include entities, blocks, and the integrity and seed. I cannot 100% remember what they do. Integrity, actually I do remember. It's whether or not it includes every single block in the save structure seed. I can't say I remember 100%. You can also change the rotation of whatever it is you're loading, which is pretty nice. You can also mirror X and Z, so it's facing a slightly different orientation. Hopefully at some point they can change it so you can change the Y as well, but that's just speculation. And that's pretty much it. You're obviously going to end up needing to save or load the structure name. These are also activated via redstone as well, which is pretty nice, all things considered. From what I've actually read, supposedly the save and load versions have the opposite texture of each other, where this one is actually supposed to be save but is currently set to load, and then vice versa. This is supposed to be load but is actually set to save. I can neither confirm or deny because I'm not super familiar with it. And then next up we have structure void, and these are similar to barrier blocks except for the fact that you can walk straight through them, and when you're not holding them they will disappear. But what structure voids do is that if you save a structure using the structure block, structure voids will be 100% ignored. So say, for example, you have a structure that's filled with air blocks and you want to spawn it underwater. If you save it with the air blocks, then it will save the air blocks and your structure will be filled with water. Whereas if you have structure blocks, it will ignore them. And anything that's in that area will be replaced with whatever is already there. So in this particular example, these will actually end up filling with water. So that is kind of interesting. They will actually appear inside of the actual structure block itself. You can actually go ahead and rotate this around to get a better view of what's going on in the area, which is pretty nice. Admittedly, there's a lot to go over in regards to these guys, but that is pretty much all there is to know about these structure blocks. Hopefully, they can improve functionality as of the next couple of updates, I'm hoping. Now, we're going to go to the Obsidian Chamber for the very final piece that I feel is pretty important, all things considered, and that is this right here. This is a light block, and this is the command right here. So it's give whatever target selector light underscore block. The first number 1 is how many you are going to end up getting, because they will stack up to 64 and 15. That was actually the data value, and the different data value that you use is actually the light level that will give off. So in this particular example, this one will give off a light level of 15, and we have all of these. So we have light level of 0, 1, 2, again, all the way up to 15. So let me go ahead and show off a little bit of an example. So I'm grabbing a 5 and a 15. And let me go ahead and briefly turn off smooth lighting. This isn't really going to make too much of a difference, but hopefully you'll get to see exactly what's going on in this regard. So if I have this light level 5 block, and you can actually see the number in the top left corner of the item, you place it down, it acts as an air block, but it does actually give off light. So as you can tell, it gives off just a tiny amount of light. Whereas if we go over here and we go ahead and place down the level 15 light block, all of a sudden we have a ton of light. And it's obviously a max level 15 light. So I could just spam this around and we can see inside the Obsidian Chamber without the need of night vision. So that's just a little feature that I thought was kind of important. Unfortunately, you will not be able to see the light blocks once they are placed down, but you are obviously able to walk through them, which is obviously kind of nice. You don't want to just walk into a light and like all of a sudden you can't move anywhere. But yeah, that's actually all there is as far as the 1.13 update is concerned. My bad. So there's obviously a lot more to this that I did not end up discussing. These are just the features that I feel are the most important. But other than that, this is actually where I'm going to go ahead and end off the video. So hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure that like button. Or more than make sure that subscribe button for future content. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at AgentCPU0 to stay updated. This has been Zer0's. Thank you guys for watching. And with that, I'll see you guys later.